the most pivotal moment for me, I think, is when Christine sings that line, "Pitiful creature of darkness, what kind of life have you known? God, give me courage to show you you are not alone," and then kisses him.
Yeah.
I think it just kills me every time because I think we've all been in love with people, and then not returned it. And then we, judge ourselves on what we look like and maybe we're not right and, self-esteem and everything like that. And that moment for me represents, something beautiful where she's like, "You aren't alone in this world," and kisses him to show that there is love. Like, it's just so beautiful.
You're listening to the Theatre Thoughts Podcast. On today's episode, we're travelling out to Sydney Harbour to discuss the world premiere of Handa Opera's outdoor production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera, with special guest Paul Tabone. Paul is an Australian opera and musical theatre performer who has recently concluded a 4-year contract at Her Majesty's Theatre in London's glimmering West End in the role of Ubaldo Piangi in Phantom. Paul has a wealth of experience behind him performing across the globe and now returns to reprise his role in Phantom for the Handa Opera and Opera Australia productions this year. Paul tells us about how a small-town Queensland boy became a sought-after opera singer and why this outdoor production is like no other production of Phantom we've seen. As usual, you can find all of our content by following us on Instagram or Facebook or by searching the hashtag TTPodcast. So get ready to open your thoughts to the latest episode of the Theatre Thoughts Podcast. Welcome everyone to today's episode. We have a very special guest joining us today. I'll give you a bit of a background before I introduce him. So, he was born in far north Queensland in Australia. He was a high-demand tenor after graduating the CQ University in 2009 with a Bachelor of Music Theatre. He was, at a young age, selected for the Luciano Pavarotti Foundation, which really helped to launch his career. And then, after he landed his first professional role in Love Never Dies, he went on to study opera in Italy, in Puccini's Turandot in Florence. He's released a debut album called This Is Me, which placed at number 1 on the classical crossover charts in Australia, the UK, and the US. He's performed 6,000 top Cs in the role of Ubaldo Piangi in The Phantom of the Opera, and has undertaken the role in both Paris and the West End, and he's currently performing in Handa Opera's spectacular outdoor production and will continue the role at the Sydney Opera House later this year. He's dubbed Australia's own Bocelli and also the tenor from Oz. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Paul Tabone. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're most welcome. It's so exciting to talk to you and about this outdoor production of Phantom, which I did manage to see the media preview, and I was gobsmacked by it, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine. It is just a spectacle, isn't it? I mean, and I don't think, it does not help where we are battling elements of the weather that make it just that even more bit intriguing, I think, every night, because it's something different every night.
Every night, every single night. So like when I went to see it, was the first kind of outdoor production I'd seen from Handa Opera. And when I was walking through to Macquarie's Point, I was walking through the trails. I was like, okay, this is amazing. See the Phantom's mask here. And then you walk out and you see the set, and you just have this amazing grand staircase overlooking the harbour. And I was like, oh my God, that is insane. And then I had my umbrella, I had my raincoat. I was like, I'm ready for everything.
You're ready? You were ready, mate. You lucky you had everything. Because when you came that night, it was raining too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just kind of like on and off sprinkling a bit, which was fine. But nothing compared to what you guys have been battling recently. Like I was saying earlier, the video of Georgina, who's playing Christine, them just performing in the torrential downpour that happened that night. Could you tell us a little bit about that night, actually, Dev? Like a bit of insight?
Well, look, I'll email after this conversation. I'll email you the actual video. But that is only the front part of the performance.
Wow.
Just prior to that, I was doing my last scene before the Phantom kills me, and I had just died, and I was standing just behind the closed doors of that truck that you can see in the video. And I sent you this video now where you can see, like, I am holding my cape over my head, and I'm just thinking, what is my life? Because it was just like torrential. torrential rain.
Wow.
And, I was hiding in like this little igloo of my cape, just trying to protect myself because, we were just there in the middle of it all. Like, I've just never had such a surreal experience and to perform like that.
And you guys just powered through as well.
Oh, mate. I mean, we tried our best. They did pause the performance and in the end cancelled it because it was torrential. Like, I'm from Far North Queensland, and I'll honestly cannot say I don't remember the last time I've seen rain like that. It was insane.
It was so heavy.
Oh, it was insane. And then 2 days later, we had like gale force winds. Like, it's just, it just doesn't stop, But it adds to the excitement for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I guess like that's the risk you take doing an outdoor production, especially to this magnitude with the Phantom. When I saw it, there was this beautiful image actually, because like sometimes when you're just overwhelmed with everything, you look over and you see the Opera House and you see the Harbour Bridge, and there was this one glorious image I think will stick in my mind of you saw as Raoul and Christine were doing their number down on the stage, you just saw the Phantom outlined at the top of the staircase, just his shadow, just against like the skyline of Sydney, and I was like, that's amazing.
That's epic. I mean, that's something we never would see behind the stage. So hearing that kind of stuff that's awesome. Like, that would add such an epic, like, subtext to that whole drama on stage as well. Seeing this shadow moving around, like, that's amazing.
Oh, it was so good. It was one of those, like, I was like looking at it, I was like, okay, lock that in my memory. Okay, there it is.
So good. Oh, I love that.
So let's talk about you then. So you've had a fascinating career. Like you said, coming from far north Queensland and then ending up on the West End, Paris, performing in Verona's stadium in Italy, and then coming back to Australia to do Phantom of the Opera, not once but twice. So you're also in the indoor production later on this year.
Yep, that's right.
So where did it all start? How did this happen?
Look, I love telling this story just because it's one of those life full circle moments for me. And, I came from a very small town in far north Queensland called Ingham, a very sport-dominated town. I mean, we grew up on a sugarcane pumpkin farm, grow sugarcane, watermelon, and pumpkins on rotation. And, it was to be an opera singer or to dream of that was really, it was really left field. If you talk to my mum and dad, they'll say the same thing. They never understood why me at 3 years old, when I saw Pavarotti on TV, would just be like, wow, I love that. And, at that time it was the three tenors concerts that they were doing all over the world, and I would listen to it, and my mum and dad were there, and I would just, at 3 years old, just be infatuated. And yeah, I'm Italian, but I can honestly safely say it's not something that, we didn't just pop on opera and listen to opera on our, I still grew up in far north Queensland, it was...
Yeah, I highly doubt you hear Pavarotti like screaming out in the fields.
not at all, pub music, I mean, that was the culture. But the more that I grew up, the more that I was intrigued, I suppose, by performing. And I took up piano when I was 7. That was something I really wanted to do. And, I said to Mum, I want to play piano. And she's like, okay, look, we couldn't really afford it, as growing up, we're sugarcane farmers after all. And so we did it. And I kept going with that until I was about 16. And at 16, an adjudicator, who was in fact the daughter of my piano teacher, came up to North Queensland, Sandra Milliken. And she was adjudicating the Ingham Eisteddfod at that time, which wasn't, even now, it's not a big Eisteddfod. It's very small. We're a small town, And she said to me, she's like, Paul, you need to sing. Because I put myself into a singing category at 16, and I was like, let's just see what happens. And she's like, you need to forget about piano because you're not that good. And I said...
Well, at least she was honest.
Oh, she was honest. She's like, Paul, but you got a great voice. You need to pursue that. And I thought to myself, that's so random. Like, I never thought I could sing, And the only reason I found out I could sing was because my piano teacher asked me to sing Amazing Grace one day because she had a cancellation of someone to sing at a funeral. And, I mean, I can tell you, as a 15-year-old boy in Ingham, who was, run on for the under-15 footy team,
Yeah.
It was not something that I particularly wanted to do, as you can imagine
Right.
in a small town, you know.
Yeah.
Piano was enough for me. It was private, did this singing. Anyway, I was home practicing Amazing Grace. And in the bathroom, as you do, my mum walked in the bathroom and she was like, Paul, you've got a good voice. I was like, Mum, get out
Wow.
of the bathroom right now.
Yeah.
And
So embarrassing.
so embarrassing. And then I walk out and she's like, you have to sing for your father. And I was like, I'm so not doing that. Like, it was just so embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah.
As you are when you're a teen, like, Mum and Dad, shut up,
Mm.
But yeah, and then from then on, from 16, I thought, okay, well, maybe this is something that I should do. And, when I was the next year, I did grade 7 Trinity College examinations in classical voice. And then when I was at the end of that year, got into university with a Bachelor of Musical Theatre based on voice. It was so,
Wow.
you
It's
think
incredible.
2 years, mate. Obviously I studied musical theatre. Now, the reason I went in there and didn't do classical voice at the Brisbane Con was because my mum wouldn't let me. She was like,
Right.
you need to be closer to home. She was scared, to go to Brisbane. So I did, but no, absolutely no regrets because it was a great course. I think the one-on-one, learning time is something that you don't get at other conservatoriums for as long as we did. And but then after that, I went and did Love Never Dies, which was a great experience for me because ever since seeing Phantom, the movie, at this local cinema when I was 11, was always like an intriguing thing for me. It was like, wow, that is amazing. And
Yeah.
I only ever did one musical at high school. Like, getting into that musical theatre degree, I could have either done classical voice or musical theatre, but on a whim, I chose musical theatre just because it was intriguing. Not that I
Right.
had experience in
Okay.
it was just intriguing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like an amazing thing. And obviously after Love Never Dies, I was, I'll be honest, I was in a very close-minded space about my castability because I was essentially 165 kilograms at that time in my life.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was like stuck in this mindset that, oh, well, if Pavarotti can be a singer, then I can too. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to do musical theatre anymore. I'm going to go and do opera because I don't have to change to be involved in.
Yeah. Ah,
You get me?
that's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting actually, because you are. Well, I mean, like, if you're thinking stereotypically when you think of classical singers, that is the thought you have.
Yes, but times have so changed.
Very much so.
Very much so. And it only took me a very short amount of time going to Europe to realize that I had made a wrong assumption, and it was,
Right.
it was ignorant. But and obviously, I from then I've lost 45 kilos to get back to a size that's,
Congratulations.
oh,
That's
thanks,
heaps.
mate. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's the journey that we all have to take, I think, and only when you're ready to do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks of going to Italy, I was already I got taken in by the Luciano Pavarotti Foundation. And I think all those times when I was little, listening to that on TV and getting my little, we had those see a tape players that you used to record. We used to record
Ah,
Rage, and
yeah.
that, we'd put it in front of the TV and record Rage in the morning on
Yep.
Saturday.
Yep. Yeah.
We had one of them, and I'd do that with like Pavarotti, like recording him. And I think to all those times I was doing that, to have that moment of going and singing for Pavarotti's wife, and then she
Oh,
telling
what
me,
a moment.
it was just, and I wasn't an opera singer then. I was just
Wow.
still very musical theatre, just getting into opera. And she was
Yeah.
like, can you sing Maria from West Side Story? Because, Bernstein is essentially this, I think, the part between opera and musical that bridges these worlds.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
So I sang it obviously very operatically. I was, had this natural operatic gift, and she was like, oh, you got a great voice. I'll be in touch. And I was like, okay.
Wow. That must have been. Were you like, you must have been bricking it like in that moment.
Mate, can you imagine? Like, I was shitting myself
Yeah.
because this was in his theatre.
Yeah.
It was in Modena, in his hometown, with his wife there, who was the representative of the estate of Pavarotti now, because he's left a lot of money as a foundation to help young artists.
Okay.
So me there as the only foreign person, and she calls me 2 days after, and she's like, would you like to sing at the arena in Verona? And I was like, Ah,
Wow.
she's like, would you like to sing at the arena in Verona? I said, of course, I would like to sing at the arena in Verona. I was shitting
That
myself,
place,
mate.
for those who don't kind of recognize it, the arena is like, it's basically the Colosseum of Verona, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
been transformed. Because I used to do tours there as a tour guide, and it's been transformed into, well, basically an operatic stadium for opera and classical music and performances as well. It's
That's
like
right. That's right.
massive and beautiful. It's absolutely
Massive,
gorgeous.
massive. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And, it's a huge tradition in Italy, to sing there. And of course, that was a huge stepping stone for me. That night, we sang to 20,000 people and it was broadcast to 20 million.
Oh my God.
20 million people. So it was a huge, huge step for me, And yeah, I only sang O Sole Mio. We were supposed to sing it with Carreras, but he got sick, so we had to sing it ourselves. And it was just the most epic evening, And it was in honor of Pavarotti. That's why we were invited.
Right.
And from there, I mean, we went to Broadway. We did concerts in Broadway. It was called the Luciano Pavarotti Heritage Concert, where it was like to promote the foundation to in honor of his memory. We did a tour in Italy of all local theaters in Bologna, Spoleto, and stuff like that. It was amazing,
Wow.
and it was a complete full circle moment for me.
I was just thinking that. I was like, to go from
You
there,
know,
and the journey it was like it was meant to be. You just got step by
Yeah,
step by
I
step.
think that, this is one big thing too, mate, that I think all the time is, a lot of young artists, they ask me like how and, how do you do it and stuff. And, I think of my journey, and not that I particularly tried hard to always succeed. I didn't. Of course, there's a lot of failures on the way. But when that kind of thing happens in your life, you cannot organize it.
No, it's
You know what I'm
just
saying?
kismet, really.
It's kismet, and I think to myself, that was me on my path.
Yeah.
Knowing that was me in the right moment of the right time of my life, and things like that continue to happen.
Yeah.
Even for me now, and I trust in that feeling of knowing when that thing happens.
Yeah.
So that is essentially my story. And I come from, like I said before, the smallest town in North Queensland. Very small town. I mean, when I was younger, we only had one KFC.
Yeah.
There was nothing there, mate. There
just
was nothing.
And then you got
Nothing.
the tenor from Oz, which has come from there. It's incredible. And sometimes, I think if you look in like our history of performers, the smallest towns sometimes create the biggest stars. I mean, look at Peter Allen, sort of like similar sort of thing. Small town boy wanted to dream of bigger, and he did.
Hey Theatre Thoughts listeners, it's your resident Sydney theatre nerd here, Charlotte. Another instalment of our Cheap Thrills feature is here, and boy have I got some recommendations for you. If you're after something serious and emotional, Heroes of the Fourth Turning is playing at the Seymour Centre until 29th of April. You can grab $35 tickets if you're under 35. If you're after a laugh, the Sydney Comedy Festival is coming right up with acts like Gabby Bolt, The Bear Pack, and Robin Reynolds that I cannot wait for. This week, I'm reviewing Belvoir's The Rep Season, which is guaranteed to be a unique experience. It's 2 different plays on alternate nights with the same set and the same cast. And you can snag tickets from $35. Check out our website for the full list of my recs for great theatre for around $40. And keep your eye out for Maze as well. More comedy coming then, and a musical that maybe shouldn't be a musical from the Hayes Theatre Company. See you next time!
So, The Phantom then. So you've performed over 1,600 performances you've done?
That's right. Yep. I've performed the role. I've performed like over 1,600 times now. Oh, well over, I think. I was in London for 4.5 years prior to COVID. It was great. Like, it was just, again, another full circle thing. Me and watching that movie when I was 11 with my nana and saying, I'm going to do that one day.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, God, come on. And doing that on the West End, like, mate, the tradition, the 35 years or 36 years now of tradition of that production, which sadly is closed. It's not the original one anymore, but, it was insane. The first year I joined was the 30th year anniversary concert. got to sing, got to meet Michael Crawford, sing with Michael Ball, and
Wow.
meet Andrew. Obviously, Andrew Lloyd Webber came and coached us, and yeah, just insane. I'm so grateful for that journey of my life. It was wonderful, and I'm still doing it even now.
Exactly. I always I have this image of Andrew, of Sir Andrew, of being just a really humble person. Every time you see him, and he's on Instagram now, which I love, and he just always seems like a very humble character. What's he like?
Look, he's lovely. He's lovely. He's just a musical genius, mate. And when you meet people who are just so uber talented, on that level, the way that they communicate is honest and humbling, and those rehearsals was just epic. Hearing his thoughts on the most original ideas that he had, and having those moments where we're bringing the show back to exactly what he wanted. We're very lucky. I mean, I was lucky because I also was my director was Hal Prince.
Oh, wow.
For 3 years. And
okay.
Again, I mean, how lucky. Sadly, Hal's not with us anymore. And I mean, those who don't know, Hal Prince is a legend,
Legend.
West Side Story,
Yeah.
original, a legend. We were taught from the horse's mouth exactly what the show needed to be, and I'm so grateful for that. It's just a wonderful journey, and Andrew is just a loveliest, most supportive man, and especially of Australian talent.
Yeah, I love that he snuck his way out here to open this production. As soon as I saw one of the performers put an Instagram story up. They're like, "Oh my god, Andrew's here!" And I was like, "What? That's incredible! He just snuck his way out here."
Yeah.
Cheeky.
Yeah, incredible. And you know what I love too? Guy Simpson was telling me the other day that they were walking in the botanical gardens, and a group of 14-year-olds were like, "Oh my god, it's Andrew Lloyd Webber!"
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that.
That's so
I love
good,
that
isn't
he
it?
is like. It's so good that he's appealing to the younger generation now too, which is it's epic.
Yeah. So what with Phantom? Like you said, it's been running over 36 years now. What do you think is its quality that just everyone keeps coming back to it? And they keep finding new ways to perform it. Like you have the outdoor production, you have the reimagined one in the West End. We have our first performer of colour as Christine, which is amazing, for obviously times changing. Why do people keep coming back to this?
It's a timeless story. It's not complex. It's a melodrama. It's easy. It's something we all can relate to somehow. And I think generally that if you go and watch Phantom, you can walk away from that feeling so many different moments of your own life represented in that story. Who should choose who?
Yeah.
I think is the biggest one. Walking away going, am I team Phantom or am I team Raoul?
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful love story.
Actually, when I saw the media event, because you guys had to finish early, we didn't get to see the ending. It actually finished on when Christine kisses the Phantom, and I heard these people behind me just like, so what happens next? Does she end up with the Phantom? Does she end up with Raoul?
Oh no!
And I was just like, no, you need to know.
Oh mate, I mean that's the wrong point to finish for most people because they think it's the Phantom.
Yeah.
Look, I still think to myself it should be sometimes. The most pivotal moment for me, I think, is when Christine sings that line, "Pitiful creature of darkness, what kind of life have you known? God, give me courage to show you you are not alone." And then kisses him.
Yeah.
I think it just kills me every time because I think we've all been in love with people, and then not returned it, and then we, judge ourselves on what we look like and maybe we're not right and, self-esteem and everything like that. And that moment for me represents, something beautiful where she's like, you aren't alone in this world, and kisses him to show that there is love. Like, it's just so beautiful. I think that timelessness of that story is why this has lasted so long. And I mean, obviously, because of the music,
Yes.
Yes. But you looked at that the original West End production, the brilliant original. I mean, you think in 1986 that would have blown the pants off people.
Yeah.
Seeing that.
And especially for people that are like musical theatre and they go and see Andrew Lloyd Webber's production, especially if they're not opera people, it's this beautiful bridge between the two. So you get a musical theatre story with opera for soundtrack. Really?
Look, I think sadly, the word opera discourages the majority of musical theatre people to watch the
Yeah.
show. And, I still obviously live in London, and I speak to so many of my friends, who some of them aren't even in the industry, and they know it's there, but they've never gone.
Mm.
And I go, why? Oh, we love theatre. Oh, I'm just not that into opera. I go, well, it's
Oh,
not
it's a
opera.
shame,
It's
isn't it?
musical theatre. And I really do encourage people who might think, oh, well, opera is this thing in a funny language that I'm not going to understand. Go and see this English story because it is a musical theatre piece in
Yeah.
general about opera.
Exactly. Even to this day, like when I saw it, I get chills when the Phantom of the Opera song plays. Always. Just chills everywhere. It's just the overture gets me every time. And especially with this one,
too.
because the chandelier is on a crane that comes out over the
Oh, mate.
harbour. And then you have them on the boat, which comes around the stage, the front lights on fire. And I'm just like, I am so overwhelmed right now.
It's so overwhelming, isn't it? I mean, this production, and I'm sure we won't be the last, but moments when this show is re-envisioned, reimagined, by the likes of Simon Phillips. I mean, for God's sake, we have not expected anything less that this was going to be incredible. And Gabby Tyler Sover and Simone Salt, I mean, her choreography is just, I think, amazing. I think these kind of moments are going to make this show live forever.
Yeah.
We've got that show in London that everyone loves and adores. We know it's there. We've got this brilliant show that Stephen Barlow, an Australian director of opera, has created, and it performed in Oslo and in Greece. It is insane. Insane.
Yeah.
And now we've got this amazing Australian production that we can claim as our own that's going to help the show live forevermore. Like, we're so lucky, and it's amazing.
This might be a bit of a weird question, but with your intense background, rich in experience, do you often get the performers in the show coming to you for advice?
Look, yeah, we do have especially young performers. They come a lot for advice, and the question I get asked the most is how do you break into this industry? And especially the question, how do you survive?
That's a big one.
How you're going to survive it's a big one. And I will never forget Chloe Dallimore coming to my university and doing a Thoroughly Modern Millie production as a director. And I asked her that same question, and she told me, Paul, if you commit yourself 1000% to the art form, and I mean commit means you find work, you make work, you never stop making work, you contact people, it will always work out. And you know what? She has been 1000% right. If you are 100% understanding your brand, believing your own talent, making sure your product is quality, always studying, making it better, you're never going to fail. There's always going to be some kind of work. Obviously, let's cancel out pandemic time, you will succeed, and that's the kind of advice, the general advice I usually give out, because a lot of the young performers do ask the very similar question.
Is that kind of where the idea of you releasing your own debut album sort of came from? Just you kind of continually making things?
Well, look, yes, as well as, that was a time when I had finished, obviously, my 1,600 shows in Phantom. You cannot do an album while you're at, 8-show week. It just won't work. You are too vocally exhausted. I had the first time in my life where, prior to that, I was doing Love Never Dies in Germany. So I had been working consistently for 5.5 years without a break, and I had this time to do a break. So, and in that break, I said, time is now, to make an album. And it was tricky, mate. I mean, we had orchestras in 2 different countries, socially distanced. You can just imagine what it was like. But I had the time, and I had time to make something that truly meant something to me, something that I look at now and go, that is me. That is all of me. That is a representation of who I am. My mum's wedding song, my mum's favorite song, the song one of the songs that inspired me by Pavarotti to start singing, Mario Lanza, who I used to listen to on my nana's record player. Everything that means something is there. So I'm really proud of that. But you're right. I did not sit on my bum and just wait for this COVID to pass. I was busy, and I'm so glad I did that, because now it's being released all over Australia with Ambition Entertainment, and in Sony and JB Hi-Fi, and it's something I would never have assumed would happen, but it's just exploded.
That's incredible. Well, congratulations
Thanks,
on that.
mate.
Well, I'll have to let you go because you got a performance to go to tonight.
I do. I have to go right now to to stage rehearsals.
As I look outside, it looks pretty nice out there. So
Look, fingers crossed, mate.
The Handa Opera's Phantom the Opera plays until the 24th of April 2022, and then we'll also see you come back from the 19th of August to the 16th of October at the Phantom the Opera at the Sydney Opera House. So congratulations. Continue that around Australia. Tickets can be bought at opera.org.au. And if you want to find out more about Paul, you can go to his website, paulettabone.com, and you can find all your albums on there.
Yep, that's right. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Congratulations again, and all the best with this weather. I hope you don't have another moment of hiding away in torrential rain. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, mate. Thanks very much.
Another big thank you to Paul Tabone for joining us, and a massive thank you to Christy Seddon from Opera Australia for helping to arrange today's episode. You can catch Paul in Handa Opera's outdoor production of Phantom of the Opera until the 24th of April 2022. You can also book tickets now for the indoor production at the Sydney Opera House from the 19th of August to the 16th of October, or for the Arts Centre Melbourne from 30th of October 2022 to the 29th of January 2023. All information and tickets can be found via opera.org.au or through this episode's description. That's it for another episode of the Theatre Thoughts Podcast. If you're looking to see more theatre in 2022 and consider yourself to be a writer, why not join our growing team of reviewers? We are currently on the lookout for new writers in Sydney and Melbourne to join our team. You'll gain great experience in writing reviews and expressing your opinions, plus you get to see theatre shows on us. If this sounds like you, email us at theatrethoughtsteam@outlook.com or by contacting us on our website, theatrethoughtsoz.online. And we'll see you next time here on the Theatre Thoughts Podcast.